And now, without further ado, coming to our speaker for the day, Mrs. Smita Tripathi. She is a special educator with over 15 years of experience, and she has been a teacher with training programs in mainstream schools and therapy centers. She thrives to orient parents, school administrators, and teachers to promote, enhance acceptance of children with special needs in inclusive schools through her training and coaching practices. And she has got some extensive experience in classroom administration, planning, and implementing of student support service projects in school. We are so very elated to have you here with us, Mrs. Smita. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Swati.
And without further ado, I would request you to please take over because our attendees are quite eager to hear from you.
Same here. Thank you, Swati. Thank you once again. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all on this beautiful platform created by Team Ability. So I'll start the webinar.
I would like to remind the participants while Mrs. Smita is bringing up the screen that we will turn off the chat option after 10 minutes of her sharing so that we could focus directly on the information that is being shared by Mrs. Smita. And thank you so much for introducing from where you belong and come from. So very excited to have so many people from all these different cities.
Can you all see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly begin the topic for today, developing math readiness skills in children with special needs. Before we begin, let's have a quick recap on what the previous webinar talked about. The previous webinar gave us an insight into writing and its importance. It helped us understand what skills are required for sentence and paragraph writing. It also gave us an insight into what are the different challenges that children with special needs face while learning expressive writing. And it gave us a lot of strategies and techniques that we could use to help children learn to write sentences and paragraphs. In today's webinar, what we'll see is an insight into math and its importance. We will have a look into what are math readiness skills and why are they important in a preschooler's life. We will have a look into challenges that children with special needs face in developing math readiness skills. And we'll discuss a lot of strategies and techniques definitely that will help us improve the math readiness skills in children with special needs. So before we look into these strategies, let's first understand what are math skills and how are they important. So math is an important part. Its math skills are, they form the basic foundation for everything that a child learns in future. Math creates a base for systematic and logical thinking. In fact, it also develops the observation skills and it boosts the critical thinking in children. According to data by National Center for Excellence in Teaching of Maths, it's been said that the first few years of a child's life are very important to develop the math skills. I'm sure you as parents and educators understand how crucial these important years are. So we'll not waste time in waiting for the child to learn this on his or her own. In fact, we'll give them a platform. We'll make this experience beautiful for them so that they can learn these skills with no difficulties. Before that, let's also understand how are the brain and the math skill development connected. So according to Stanford University research, it's been determined that there is a direct correlation between math and cognitive development. In fact, math requires us to think critically. It develops our abstract thinking skills, our concrete thinking skills, because of which there is a development of brain muscles. So while we learn math, we also indirectly learn, we develop our other cognitive skills, which leads to overall intelligence. And also maths can be used as a predictor, an indicator, which can tell us how will be a child's social skill, general education, and their other ability. So we can say there's definitely a correlation between math and the brain skill development. It also enhances analytical and problem-solving skills in children. Now that we know what researchers have to say, let's go to the basics. How is math connected to everyday life? I'm sure all of you here have seen glimpses of math in your everyday life, be it toddlers or be the grown-ups. We all use math in some way or the other. When it comes to games and sports, don't we use math to calculate our scores, to find an average, to see who's winning the game? When it comes to music and dance, the rhythm, the codes, the steps, the beats, the count of steps while you're dancing, all has math in some way or the other. Entertainment, oh yeah, there are a lot of books which need you to, there are a lot of riddles and puzzles in the books. There are a lot of shows that want you to solve certain mysteries. A lot of them have to do with math for sure. While gardening, the amount of soil that you put, the amount of compost, the amount of, the mixture of the soil that goes in for the right plant, the amount of water that you will put, everything depends and everything needs a bit of calculation. Cooking is a lot to do with proportion. Everything that you add to your food has to be in the right amount, right? While driving, we also understand the average, the speed, the distance we calculate, how long will we take to reach a place, is all to do with math. Whatever field you're in, you are definitely going to face math in some form or the other. Computer applications definitely need you to know a bit of math. Problem solving, any area that you're trying to tackle a problem will need a bit of calculation, a bit of estimation, maybe guessing, a lot of stuff which is related with math. Time tracking, of course, when you're trying to study, when you need to plan your studies, you need to plan your games, you need to plan your movie time. A lot of time tracking activities need you to plan time, need you to do a bit of math. Having said that, we know how important math is in our everyday life. So we cannot let even one child go without learning at least the basics of math. And because this will help them make their life easy. So what are math readiness skills? The math readiness skill, of course, we'll see in detail, but for now you can try and understand it as the basic building blocks. So these are the basic building blocks for learning formal math later in the higher grades. So these can also be called as PreMatch skills. To help a child understand math readiness skills or learn the PreMatch skills, we need to work on two areas simultaneously: early math concepts and skills, and cognitive processes or thinking skills, like they call it. Let's see what goes into the early mathematical concepts and skills, the pre-skills. So when you're dealing with this area, you need to touch upon number sense. We'll discuss this in detail. Number recognition, counting, skip counting, one-to-one correspondence, place value, ordering and sequencing, of course, based on the quantities, before, after, and between, numbers, greater than, less than, equal to, all to do with numbers, odd and even numbers. So see, these are definitely skills that you've heard. You may miss on some of them. The idea of the webinar today is to help you understand that these skills are the core skills to develop a very good base for the math. So we should never miss on these skills. In fact, a lot of time needs to be invested in helping a child learn these skills. The other area that we'll focus on and see today and understand are the cognitive or the thinking skills that goes into learning math. So unless and until child has developed these skills, it becomes a little difficult for them to understand any concept, not just with math. It can be with science, it can be with language, it can be with any other subject that you're trying to teach them. So observation forms a very important part of the cognitive skill. Language, estimation, working memory, perceiving patterns, matching, problem solving, sorting and classification, understanding the similarities and differences, and spatial orientation and organization. So let's quickly understand what are the challenges that children with special needs face while they are trying to develop math readiness skill. Trust me, it isn't easy. When we go through the skills, we feel, the children can definitely learn this, maybe with practice, maybe with time, but it isn't easy for all the children. Some of them need hand-holding, some of them need strategies, intervention based on their strength and weakness. While I take you through the challenges, I'm sure most of you must have, as teachers, and maybe some parents have seen children struggling with these challenges. So what we can do today is, while I'm going through the challenges, I want the participants, you all, to maybe think of the core area. What can be the reason behind these challenges? For example, the first one that we see here is difficulty recognizing numbers. So now this difficulty can be because of memory issues. It can be because the child is not well versed with the numbers. So it can be because of number sense, poor number sense. So see, we have two areas. We know that these are the two areas which can be reason for this particular symptom that the child is showing. So we as educators should try and heal the child, provide them with strategies only if we know what is the root cause of this particular problem. So yes, participants, go ahead and type according to what you read here, what I read. Please write and try and guess what can be the core problems behind this areas, behind these problems. So the next one is difficulty connecting a number to the quantity it represents. The number 2, for example, with 2 apples, struggles to connect numerical symbols 5 with their corresponding words 5. So you're seeing there is a connection. They need to connect the number 5 with the word 5. Difficulty recognizing patterns, sequencing numbers, and placing things in order. So now this difficulty is a lot to do with pattern, the sequence, and placing of things in the order. So pattern, order, sequence, this definitely will take you to the core area. What do you think can be the core area behind this? Any guesses? Please go ahead and type in the chat box.
So we have got vision problems, spatial problem. Probably they can't see the numbers well.
Yes. So it can be because of visual spatial problems, vision problems. Beautiful. What else?
Sumita says it may be understanding issue, dyscalculia,
Yes.
cognitive issues.
Wonderful. So this definitely helps me understand that you guys are aware of the core problem areas. So we will discuss some more core problems area. Let's go through the challenges. So there are certain children who lose track while counting. So maybe while counting, they don't get as in like, they lose track. Maybe while they're counting with fingers, they miss their counting the finger, or maybe while counting the objects, they skip counting one of the object, or they again and again count the same object, right? So it's losing track. Difficulty with processing numbers and quantities. So this is to do with calculation. This needs you to calculate, process numbers, okay? Struggle counting backwards and forwards. Oh, math definitely needs us to count forward, go backward, file subtraction, addition. So this is an important skill. And if you see your child or your student struggling with this particular skill, you need to definitely understand what can be the reason behind it. Difficulty comparing to amounts. So here we are talking about comparison, big, small, okay, greater than, less than. Difficulty estimating quantities. So estimation, making guesses as in which quantity is more, which one is less. Okay, poor visual and spatial orientation. This is one of the area that's listed as in because of poor visual spatial skills. The child may have difficulty with direction, with orientation, sometimes even while while writing the number, understanding shapes, doing geometry, a lot of other things. Difficulty sorting out direction instantly. Like I said, direction problem. They are unable to say, for example, they have to guide someone with direction. They won't be able to do that. So the difficulty isn't just in the classroom while doing math. You will also see them struggling otherwise with money, with directions, with math, and many other things. Difficulty grasping the meaning of quantities or concepts like big and small. Difficulty in grade level math. So now that you're aware of the challenges, I'm sure you must have seen some more challenges while you're dealing with, trying to teach children math. You need to make sure that your assessment is correct. You should know what are the core problem areas. The core problem areas, like you all said, can be vision, it can be attention, it can be memory, It can be cognitive issues, poor number sense, like they're not aware with numbers yet, okay? Computational problems, fine motor can be another reason. So these are different areas. So once you're sure what is the area, accordingly, you'll choose your strategy and you will start with your intervention. It's important to also see how they perform other ones, okay? So it's a combination of all. Having said that, other than strategies, you can also request the parent or the school to help the child go with formal assessment. Make sure that they have a certification, and if the board allows, they should be allowed some amount of concession, maybe extra time, calculator, but of course not at preschool level. So we are not getting into the details right now. Strategies, the important topic for today, strategies and techniques that will help us improve math readiness and skills. Okay, in children. So when it comes to strategies, what we need to remember is the core things with any strategy that you're using. One, the intervention that you choose should definitely help the struggling students. Okay, so like it's not a set remedy that this problem is equal to this solution or this difficulty is equal to this remedy. What you need to do is, once you know the strength of the child, okay, yes, the child is interested in this, maybe art, maybe music, maybe the child is good with reading and has some number difficulties, you will choose your strategy accordingly so that it should benefit the child. You will choose on the child's strength and give him a strategy which the child will use to overcome the difficulty. Second, you need to remember is that it should help the student bridge the gap. So whatever is the current level of performance of the child, with the help of these strategies, children should be able to move ahead, bridge the gap and reach to the higher level of math. Any intervention or strategy that you use, make sure that you model it, okay? You have to actually do it with your child. It's not that today I tell them, okay, this can be done with this and this technique and just give them the technique. You have to actually practice that n number of times with your child till you know, yes, the child is confident and can do it himself. Also, you should make sure that you do it it needs practice, okay? The strategies are not handy that you've used and it will help you overcome the difficulties. So use them, practice them. And last is that any strategies that we see today or that you use otherwise, you've read somewhere, definitely should be tweaked. It should be modified as per the need of your child. So don't think, that the strategy that's given is to be used as it is. So for example, one of the strategies that you're planning to use is dealing with 50 bigger numbers, see if you can first start with smaller numbers if you're still in that 1 to 20 bracket. Once you've used it there, then go ahead and use some other strategy or the same strategy for bigger set of numbers. Having understood, now that you've understood, we've seen that, let's see what are math teaching aids. Now, I call them as the magic wand. Yeah, because math is an abstract topic, like we all know. Unless and until we use these teaching aids and make it hands-on for our children, make it interesting for our children, math cannot be taught. So you have to do math, you cannot teach math. So these are certain teaching aids that we have it here today. So clay, ice cream sticks, beads, blocks, cards, and these stickers, I'm sure we all use it also as positive reinforcements, right? If a preschooler is doing really well in your class, you definitely give them these as a positive reinforcement because they love playing and manipulating these. So these can 100% be used as teaching aids for pre-level math for your math skills. So clay, we'll see how while we're discussing the strategies. The next set of aids that we see here, the Unifex cubes. These are cubes that come in 4 colors. They are beautiful tools that can be used for organizing, pattern making, making towers, adding, for subtraction. So they are handy and they can be used as a beautiful teaching aid. Tens frame is another teaching aid. It is a rectangular frame. It has 10 boxes, 5 on each row. So here numbers from 1 to 10 can be actually represented with help of stickers, stamps, counters, tokens, the way it is. You'll get to see them in detail while we go ahead during the webinar. This becomes an important tool if you're trying to help a child understand number bonds, when you're trying to teach them place value, and also trying to help them with counting, story problems, and subitizing. So we'll see the next one, number lines. Now, this is a visual aid, a beautiful aid wherein the children can actually see the number sequences. They can understand the difference between the bigger number, the smaller number, compare two numbers, and they are a must when you're teaching them addition and subtraction. 20-beat reckon rec is I should say, one of the most beautiful teaching aid when it comes to math. This gives you an insight into how well versed a child is with numbers. For example, you'll see that it has 20 beads here, 5 red and 5 white on each row. So if you tell a child, like, show me 5, and if the child moves all 5 red together, you can understand the case. The child somewhere is comfortable with numbers. The child has already started counting in groups. The child understands subitizing. What if a child moves like, beads 1, 2, 3, 4, there you get a clarity. The child is still not confident. The child is in learning phase. The child needs more practice. So this is a very good aid if you want to understand the comfort of child with numbers, and also see how well versed they are with manipulating numbers. Same is extended to 100 bead reckon rec. You can use it while you're doing larger numbers up to 100. Then we have the 2-color counters. So these are chips available. These are handy. I'm sure we use it in a lot of games too. So they can be used as tokens for counting again, for making patterns, for groups, for story problems, and otherwise. We have 120 number board. Here you have numbers listed right from 1 to 120. A child gets to see the entire sequence. It helps them visualize how many numbers are these, understand the pattern, understand the sequence. Odd numbers can be shown, even numbers you can show while teaching multiplication. Before that, you can help these number boards to teach a child times table. So again, a very handy tool, and it's a must for all educators if you are teaching child these math. Color tiles again come in 4 different colors. These are beautiful tiles. They help us, again, gives us an insight to a child's math thinking pattern. The way the child manipulates these tiles, and makes patterns, and, it can also be used for permutation and combination. You will definitely see that this makes abstract part of the math a bit easy for the child, and it will give you an insight into how the child thinks. Base 10 blocks we'll be seeing today are designed blocks. These every block is like 10 times the block of the other block. So for example, ones is just a small cube, tens is a rod, hundreds is a flat, and thousands is a block. If most of you are using it, wonderful. If not, I will definitely recommend that we should use this while teaching place value to the children. It matters. It definitely helps. Math balance, again, where they help, they can see the numbers, they can actually see the bigger and the smaller number. Okay, practically do it. Dice can be used in a lot of games, can be used to teach counting and other math skills. Spinners used for games, can be used for a lot of problems wherein you need to, it can be used for game also. Okay, so now that we've seen strategies, okay, another thing that we need to remember before we go into strategies is the CPA approach. How many of you actually use CPA approach or are aware of CPA approach? So participants, please do type in the chat box. It will give us an idea as to, yes, it will help us understand. It will help each one of us understand how many of us are actually using it. And if not, it's absolutely okay. It's something which is very simple. We'll discuss it now, and we'll see if we can use it during our math intervention classes.
A lot of people are saying that they do not have any particular idea about the CPA approach. So, and some of them are asking for the full form to be able to understand it better. But looks like most of the participants are unaware, Mrs. Smita.
Sure, Swati. So we'll quickly see what CPA approach is. So this is called as the concrete pictorial abstract approach. This was actually designed, maybe first thought by Benjamin Bloom in 1968, after which Jerome Bruner got into it, and we have the detailed version of it today. So according to them, they believe that the abstract nature of any subject, especially like subject math, it leaves, it's a mystery for a lot of children. They're unable to learn because they just can't, at their level, understand it. So what should be done is that any learning should first begin with what a child already knows, and then build on that, and then move further and give them the detail of any topic that you're doing. So the first step in CPA approach is the concrete step. So this stage is the doing stage. Here, any topic that you introduce, for example, if it's addition, okay? So you need to introduce the topic with physical or concrete material. You'll give children, for example, as shown here, apples to count. It's any concrete material that you can catch hold of. Give it to your children, which are easily available. Make sure that they use it. So the doing stage makes things, it comprehends the topic to their level. They're able to understand what it is. Once they're familiar with the concept of addition, for example, in the doing stage, we move on to the next step, which is the pictorial step of the CPA. So this is the seeing stage. So what you do is now from the physical state, you bring them to the representation, the picture state of the concrete object. Instead of giving them apple, for example, you will give them the picture of the apple, wherein they'll do the same thing. They will add, but not with apples, with the picture here. So this is the seeing stage. So here they can reconnect. The mental image that must have happened there at the concrete stage is being used here in the picture stage, and they're able to actually count or add. Moving on to the next stage, the abstract stage. Once you're sure that yes, the child does excellent counting with pictures, with concrete objects, then you move on to symbol, as in you will teach them what the expression looks like, what number 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 looks like. So once you've done this, any topic that now that you know what CPA is, CPA approach is beautiful. It's already being used by a lot of curriculums all over the world. Use this technique because math needs to be done, like I said. You have to help them understand what it is, and only then they'll be able to connect, comprehend what the topic means, and then learn it really well and not forget it. So now, participants, let's quickly move on to the PreMatch skills. Okay, so we'll be seeing what number sense is now. A number is a mathematical object. It is used to count, measure, calculate, and label. Number sense is a learned skill. So why we need to enforce this here is that it is not something that will come by age. Sometimes we think the child is just in, pre-KG, lower KG, or maybe the child has time. Maybe the child will learn this concept with practice by the time the child reaches grade 1. What we need to remember is that every time that you spend with a child in preschool years, doing these activities, helping them understand numbers, will make the base for them to learn the formal math in the higher grades. What does math sense now mean? It means the child's ability to manipulate numbers, play with numbers, all their comprehension skills to do with math, formulas, symbols. It all depends on their number sense. What does it include? It includes number recognition and fluency. So the ability to count, read and write numbers, number sequence, understand what comes before, after, and in between, the number patterns, skip counting, odd and even numbers, etc. Place value, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, etc. Compare numbers greater than, less than, equal to, ascending and descending order. See, we definitely do all this, but we have to make sure that the child has mastered these techniques, these topics. Okay, how can we do that? We have to come down to the child's level. So teach number sense in a way that makes sense to the child. For us, it may be easy, but no. From a child's point of view, you have to go down to their level and see what is the area of interest, and accordingly build these concepts in them. So model numbers in different ways. Wherever you are, if you're shopping, show them the numbers. Wherever you see on the signboard, maybe outside the house door, on the calculator, on your phone, maybe while they're watching, reading something, any number that you've seen, you show them so that they understand that yes, numbers are everywhere and what they mean in different places. Visualize ways to see numbers. So while you're cooking, ask them, give me 2 potatoes, give me these number of, apples. You can tell them that it's 7 o'clock, it's time for bed, or 10 minutes to wind up your game or to clean up. So use numbers and do a lot of math talk with them when they're young. while you're doing stories, while you're doing songs, while you're doing nursery rhymes, a lot of songs and rhymes too to do with numbers. Sing them, help them understand that yes, numbers are there, give more time and practice counting, and reinforce the relationship between quantities, number, and the other concepts. Sometimes the children learn numbers just by rote, like they know it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but it's just rote. They haven't actually understood that 1, 2, 3 are in a series and what it means and how they look like. So give them a clarity, uh, help them understand all together so that they have excellent number sense, which will help them in the later. Now here we've listed certain activities, sample activities. There are n number of activities, and I'm sure you all are creative enough and you'll use your own creativity to look for more ways now that you understand how important is teaching this going down to a child's level. So the first one that we see is through art and craft and sensory play. You can see finger painting. So the number that is there, the child needs to paint. You can make a book of a number. Say if you're dealing with number 5 today, make a book of everything that's five fingers, maybe like, something other. So make a book wherein they can color number 5, they get to see number 5, they get to count number 5, a dice with number 5 on it, and other things like that. You can also use lacing activities. If a child is interested in craft, ask them to lace, around number 6, the pattern 6, so that they know, yes, the number 6 looks like in this fashion. You can help them stamp. You can also make them color. You can also give them a paper to punch holes. So it all depends on how keen the child is using what tool. They all have their favorite tool. Use that and make sure they practice as much as they can. Now, here are more activities that are displayed. These are art and craft and sensory play activities. Like you can say a tray with sand, wherein the child is tracing number 7. You have a monster here where you can actually give child dough, clay. Like I said in the beginning, it can be used as a very beautiful teaching aid. Let the child feed 6 cookies inside, put in the monster's mouth. You can also give them loom bands, rubber bands, wherein they can put the ice cream stick has number 2 on it, so they can put 2 loom bands around the ice cream stick. The one here is again to do with cookie jar. So put that many amount of cookies into the jar as the number displays. So see, it's fun. You are repeating, but you are refreshing, as in you're using different techniques. The child doesn't get bored, and you can also make it interesting in your own way. Number recognition. Now, another important thing. So here what needs to be remembered is that give them, a variety. Don't make it boring wherein they have to just read a number and maybe like just count, rote learning. They have to just repeat and learn. Make it interesting. Like you'll see certain activities here, you have beads wherein you have to kind of count apples, keep the bead on the number of apples that you've counted. One beautiful technique is the Lego here. The blocks can be used to actually trace number 4 and show them, then identify what number have they traced. You can also help them build a city with, whatever is the number, that many blocks they have to put together and make buildings there. And there's this beautiful song or a catchy tune, you can say, how to help them identify number 9. It goes like, make a loop and then a line. That's the way we make a 9. So you have readily a lot of, jiggles, or I'll say lines like these, which are readily available. So just go look for them. Maybe if you're creative enough, make your own. Maybe make one with your child if you want. If your child is good with rhymes and wants to kind of, help you with this. For example, there's another one, number 8. So it's make an S and don't wait, go up and make an 8. So we have things like this for all the numbers. Coming to number recognition, again, we did a lot of games and activities. We should also try and involve games, as in kinesthetic learners will benefit from this. For example, kick 5 times. So while they count, they kick. So you're giving them an exercise, you're giving their body movement, which they like, and they're also learning number 5. So squat 5 times. Maybe you can tap your knee 5 times, or you can spin 5 times. Imagine if you have a child with a lot of energy in your class, you can actually channelize their energy by giving them such activities where they can use their energy and at the same time learn. You also have this beautiful pizza box made out of DIY, and you can help the child place the number, the perfect pizza slice on the number. So they'll count the number of pepperoni maybe, and then keep the slice on the right count. I'm sure there are a lot of activities that you must be thinking right now. Maybe we'll discuss them towards the end. We'll see now what's counting and how can we help the child. Now, counting again is an important activity. Being able to count is a skill that they need, before they can develop cardinality. So for them to understand that one is just one object and two is two, they first need to count, learn how to count. They need to incorporate counting in daily life. So counting while you're shopping, counting maybe your steps while you're walking towards the car, counting, the number of chips you ate or the number of apple slices you had. So help them count, give them all opportunities that they can count, work together, because sometimes it gets boring. So it's not just them. They should see that yes, it's fun and you're interested in doing it too. So do it together. There also, for example, there's this anchor chart here. So this will help you understand that this counting strategy that we see here, there are different techniques that different techniques that different people use while counting. The first one that here is count out loud. So here you can teach them to count while they counting the numbers loudly. Touch and count, wherein they have to touch every object that they count. Move and count, so they are able to move every object that they counting. Of course, the objects are handy when you're starting to teach them this. Line up and count, wherein you first organize everything, because maybe the visual, the spatial, capacity of the child is not too good. It's a bit poor. So you'll line up and then you'll teach them to count so that they don't miss on any object. Maybe you can teach them count on later. So it's not that we always begin counting with one. So if it's say already a group of 5 and you adding more to it, then you can start from 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That saves a lot of time and a lot of memory space. And the task of counting, especially when we know that children with special needs find it really difficult. And recount is another technique. These are different counting strategies. You all can also use tally marks. You can use marbles. You can use doodling. Sometimes children like to draw, maybe doodle something while they're counting. So yes, anything that helps them should be your strategy or your technique. So counting can also be done in interesting ways, like with music. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught a fish alive. Yeah. And there are many more rhymes like that. Help them sing, help them dance, and help them learn these numbers, because it's their age to play. So we shouldn't stop them from play. So play, music and dance, everything can go together and learning can happen hand in hand. There are a lot of board games, simple board games wherein they only have to move the manipulator. So count, help them, snakes and ladders, Ludo, whatever you think is good for your child or your child is interested in, you can begin with that. There are again art and craft activities like the one displayed here. So they have to count the number of bands here. Now, if there is number 5, they have to count if number 5 is there or not there, or vice versa. They can also place the number of bands according to the number of the ice cream stick. Skip counting is equally important. Once the child knows counting, be sure that yes, they understand the series, okay, from 1 to 10, 1 to 20, or up to 50, we move on to skip counting. Now, what we need to remember with skip counting is that it's an important thing before we start multiplication and division. So skip counting can naturally take them into multiplication and division. You'll see how. This is difficult, so you make it interesting and easy because it helps them develop arithmetic fluency and number sense later. So like you see, there's a bike here. If they like any particular image, say a character is their favorite, you can maybe have, there are a lot of worksheets available online, or you can make your own worksheets, give them such numbers wherein they have to actually track the number, track the skip counting that they're doing. So if it's 5, from 5, they need to reach 10, from 10, 15, 15, say 20, 20 to 25, and so on. So once they finish tracking, they'll actually see what they've ended up joining and what the image looks like. Along with this, you can also use, for someone who is very good with visual skills, maybe you can use a puzzle like these, wherein they have to just put the puzzle together and they'll automatically see that, yes, they have started with 5 and then moved on to 10, 15, 20, and how the picture is complete by the time they reach 50. Okay, so it can be used both ways. A child who's good with 5, 10, 15 already can put the puzzles together based on the number, or Someone with good visual skills can place the picture together and see how counting in 5 looks like. You can use hopscotch in the beginning to help them understand what hopping a number is, what skipping a number is. Okay, so this gives them an idea. This is hands-on training, what we were talking about. You can have games. I'm sure a lot of birthday parties, party planners conduct such games wherein the child has to come together and they are skip counting, wherein if it's their turn and it's number 5, all multiples of 5 need to be skipped. So whoever ends up with multiple of 5 has to keep quiet, or maybe just say skip, so that, and if you end up saying the number, you're out. Though we'll not get into the details of the game right now, but yes, there are a lot of interesting techniques. You can also use coins, money, or you can use lacing boards wherein you have holes and you have numbers and they have to lace through the holes. So this is for somebody who likes a lot of fine motor skill, fine motor activity while learning. So we move on to the next PreMatch skill, one-to-one correspondence. A very important skill again, because it involves the act of counting. There are certain rules that you need to be aware of, and you need to indirectly help a child learn. For example, while you're counting, the number names are in series. So if you see here, so while you're counting, it has to be 1, then 2, then 3. So you cannot randomly say any number name. While you're counting, the objects can be in any order as far as you just counting the object once. And also help them understand that you need to begin with 1, and maybe towards the end, whatever is the last number, that's the cardinality. So this comes with time. We cannot expect as soon as you start teaching them one-to-one correspondence, the child will be aware of all 4 rules. No, it will come with time. Have patience. You begin with one thing at a time. First, see if the child knows the series, as in 1, 2, 3, 4. Then if the child is able to actually count object by object, and if the child is stopping once the objects finish, so help the child understand that yes, you've reached the end, and the total that the number that you just said is the total amount of objects that we have. The cardinality of the number is the same. And again, you can use all the skills that we learned during counting, like touch and count, count it aloud, align them and count. All the techniques can be used while you're teaching them one-to-one correspondence. Moving on to the next one, the next PreMatch skill that they need to develop is before, after, and in between. So now before, after, and between, now from what we learned, see, this is definitely important because math is a lot to do with the location of things, right? As in it's on the left, it's on the right, the second number, while you're placing them in tens and ones and 100 boxes, when you're trying to understand ascending, descending order, when you're trying to understand the numbers, which one is big and small, everything depends upon the location of the number. The digits remain the same. It's the place that decides what is the value of the number. So knowing that this is an important concept, we should invest a lot of time in this particular skill. Okay, teach them, begin with concepts like first, next, and last. So get them well versed with these words. How can you do that? With their daily routine, maybe, like once they get up in the morning, what's the first thing that you did when you woke up today? What's the next thing that you'll do after you finish your math homework? Maybe what's the last thing that you do before you go to sleep? So help them hear the word first, next, last. Help them understand that yes, there is a sequence, there is an order. Something happens before something happens after something. So once you've generalized the skill, you can go ahead and teach them before, after, and between with numbers. So again, introduce the words first. So first is before, and then maybe like help them make sure they've understood what order and sequencing is like, and then demonstrate whatever you've while you're teaching them with numbers, say it loud, demonstrate, because they need to know what's going in your mind. Why did you know that this is the first number and this is the next number? They have to see you doing it. So model it as much as you can. There are certain activities that are here. Also, you can, while you're teaching this, you can play Simon Says, wherein you have to make them do 2 tasks together. Okay, tell them first close your eyes and then maybe try and touch your nose. So they remember, okay, first something and then something, and then, understand that there's an order and sequence even while they play. Okay, now what you see on your screen here is certain teaching aids. Now, I personally believe that these teaching aids become a good reinforcement. So you can make these teaching aids, give it handy to your child, and ask them to use it while they're solving. For example, there's a sequence here, the first one, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there is this, we call it the window. a before after window, or maybe you can give it your own name. And with the help of this child, wherever you place the blue blob, it is also color coded. So they know, yes, the center one is, the between, the one before that is before, and the one after this is after. So a aid like this makes it things visual, makes it a bit easy, because they cannot, every time you tell them, uh, understand your instructions, or maybe they're not paying they're paying that amount of attention to your instruction, or maybe they need some kind of support. So this visual aid becomes a support to what they know. The concept needs to be backed with a visual support, and this goes as a visual support. And now you see the next one is a card thing here, a frame. So you can have any character, whatever the child likes, make it interesting for them, give it to them so that they can use it while they're learning this technique. You can also make a DIY thing here, wherein if it's number 8 and one number less, so you'll shift all the pebbles to their previous block, and one number more, maybe you'll add one more pebble and put them all together on the right, or you can give them more activities like these. The green one here that you see is a peekaboo window, I call it. You can call it whatever you want. So here they understand the entire relationship among the numbers. For example, if this number is 54, it's a higher number. Of course, you can do it with smaller numbers too. So 10 less is how much, 10 more is how much, 1 less is how much, 1 more is how much. So see here, they understand the number in totality. They try and connect the number with the numbers nearby, in and around. So please think of more activities. Maybe if we get time towards the end, we'll discuss on different strategies, more strategies that we can use for teaching these concepts. Coming to the next one, the greater than, less than, and equal to. So it's just too simple. What's so difficult? Sometimes, maybe even when I started teaching, I thought it's easy. I'm sure this won't take time. The children should learn this, without any strategy. But no, what I do not remember maybe then is that the child has just begun schooling. The child is in preschool. The child is learning a lot of terms on a daily basis. It's not just math. It's the other subject. It's socializing. They're learning language. They're learning numbers. They're learning other things, games, sports. So every day they learn or they are exposed to new words. So learning greater than and less than, and the symbols, especially, we're talking about what's greater than and what's less than. So for them to understand this, we can have this, there's an example here. Okay, how do you make it interesting, and how can you give them a memory aid to remember, okay, what's greater than. So this is called as the alligator method. Alligator, which one will you eat? The bigger number, the greater number, that's the one I eat. So see here, what you can do is, along with this rhyme or the song, you can have a handy alligator, maybe made from a paper plate, maybe like, you can have something designed like that and give it to them. Let them have a look and let them actually see that, yes, you can use this, so the greater than is the bigger mouth of the alligator. And it always points towards the bigger number, because the alligator is hungry and the alligator eats only the big number. So stories always attract children. They get interested and they want to kind of pay attention, and they retain it somehow. Less than is again a tricky thing, and you can teach them if the symbol looks like L, okay, and with the top smashed down, then that symbol is less than, because less is L and less than is L. So some association, some hint that they can remember that this particular sign is for less than and this particular sign is for greater than. There are other techniques too you can explore. We have certain things displayed here, like you'll see, we've tried and made it handy. Like you have to actually grab some amount of Lego or blocks and compare them. So 7 versus 4. So which one is more? Okay, so they'll see that yes, 7 is these many blocks together, maybe these many Legos, whereas 4 is just this much. So yes, this is greater than this. So here they get to see, okay, they get to understand, okay, so greater is bigger, it is more compared to the smaller one. You can also make them do the tower, because this concept comes easily, this is small and this is tall. So they know the one that is less and they know the one which is more. Also, you can, do it with objects, like comparing fruits, the number of toys they have, or the number of beads they have, or any concrete material that you can. So going back to CPA, we first begin with concrete object, then move on to pictures, and then move on to numbers, and then see if they can actually apply what they've learned with numbers. Even and odd numbers. Now here, identifying even and odd numbers again is an important skill. Okay, so encourage them to look for something which is readily available. So when you begin this topic, you can start maybe telling them a story. Like you'll see that there is a poem here or a rhyme song. So it talks about odd and even. If you are an even number, you always have a pair. So if you look around, your buddy will always be there. So this goes for even. Whereas for odd, if you are an odd number, there's always a lonely one. He looks around to find his buddy, but he's the only one. So once they know, they can relate. Maybe you can show them with the help of children in the class, put them in groups. Sometimes you can just call out, come on, group yourselves in even numbers, come on, group yourselves in odd numbers. So when they see someone is left, they understand, oh, maybe we've made a group of odd numbers. That's why one person has no company. So do it in a very practical way. All you have to do is while you're playing these games and, you're doing these fun activities with them, remember to use the language that you use otherwise while you're teaching. So use even numbers. You've made a group of even numbers. You guys are odd team here together so that they can relate that, yes, this is number, what we're doing. Okay, teach them when if it's a bigger number, for example, like you will see here. So instead of actually they may feel that they don't know if it's an even or an odd number. Help them with this trick, wherein they only have to see the ones place and guess if it's an even. For example, if it's 2 here, it's an even number. If it's 2 here, it's an even number. This again is even. Whereas here the ones place has all odd numbers, so these numbers are odd numbers. So giving them handy tricks and facts like this will help them save their time in calculating, and definitely which is very difficult for children with special needs, so it makes their work a bit easy. You can also make a maze like this wherein they can help the monkey reach the banana with the help of just tracing or finding the path of odd or even. Like they have to go through only even path to reach, or maybe the odd one. So odd and even numbers, again, there are many more activities. Please, before you start your session or you're planning to touch upon this topic, first think of concrete ways. Okay, then think of other activities that you can, then bring in worksheets and numbers. So never begin with a worksheet, because once you do that, the child may just go blank, and the child may not want to further, put their mind into this topic, or they may assume that this is difficult and they can never learn. Like I was saying, there are many more, few more listed here. Like we have the first one, even, Steven, and odd, Todd. So you can have these anchor charts placed in the class. Maybe you can also appoint a person as even Steven and someone as odd, Todd. So you'll see even Steven is someone who has a partner, whereas odd, Todd has no partner. Okay, so you can show them by plotting these points, the number with the points, and then help them understand that, okay, all these points here, for example, 8 has 8 dots. So 2 together, if you pair, there's nothing left. Whereas here 7, if you make 7 dots and if you pair them, there'll be 1 dot which will be left without any company. So that's how even Steven and odd dot. So odd dot numbers like 1, 3, 5, 9 always have nobody as a partner to it, whereas even Steven has partner. There's another activity which is listed here. You'll see blocks. So when they put blocks together, see this thing helps them understand that, yes, the one that goes finishes unevenly is an odd number, whereas the one that finishes evenly is a even number. You can also give them a trick or a hint like that. This all comes in the learning phase. We are talking about the concrete phase, wherein you using objects to help them understand the concept. Now here is the tens frame that we discussed while we were seeing the teaching aids. See how beautifully numbers 1 to 10 can be actually as represented here with the help of dots. And if you see, all even numbers have equal in both the frames, whereas the odd numbers have one left, as in the lower frame is empty. Again, a visual aid which helps a child understand that, yes, odd numbers do look like this and even numbers do look like this. So what happens is, with these activities, they have mental image created in their mind, and somewhere they start understanding that, yes, 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on are even numbers, whereas 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 are odd numbers. Now we know it that well because the images are already there with us. With practice, we know, it's more of a rote thing for us now, but they'll take time to develop and reach that state. Place value, again, is an important topic, the most important topic, I'll say, which should be definitely taught with the help of uh, teaching aids, because it's the most abstract topic in the preschool curriculum. If you see, it's very difficult for children to understand the digit suddenly changes its value when it's placed elsewhere, right? So before you begin with this, I would, request or suggest that you should help them understand what place value looks like. Definitely use the tens block, that we were talking about. Give them visual examples. Use color coding. Maybe different places will have different colors. You can also use this pocket charts like it's displayed here. So introduce them to counting in groups. So far, maybe they were just counting 1, 2, 3 single things. Now they'll start counting in groups. So once, 10 set of objects can be counted like in one go, 10. The next set of 10 objects can be counted together, 20. And how 10 set of 10 objects together can make it 100, and so on. So you have to be really patient and see this takes time. It cannot be just taught in one go. You will invest in the topic in all grades a little, so that the child learns in installments, but the child gets the concept clearly. Also, you'll see some teaching aids displayed here. You have a flip chart. When the child understands that this is ones, this is tens, this is hundred, how the value of the number means, what it means. This one is different from this one, what it means. See, this is the teaching aid that we were talking about, the blocks that we were talking about. So base 10 blocks, these are called as, they are readily available. You all can keep it because it's an investment. It will help you teaching child numbers. So a single digit is represented using unit, whereas set of 10 is represented using a rod, whereas 10 set of 10s together make 100, and it's represented using this flat, and 10 set of flat together, which makes 1000, is represented using cubes. So you see here, they get to see that this is one, maybe this is 1000, how a number looks, how is it different, and what happens when you put too many thousands together, or if there are too many hundreds, or if there are 20s. So understanding the concept of place value becomes a bit easy, and it isn't abstract anymore for the child. You can also make your own Lego like this, wherein they have to expand this particular number. So they understand to make 1347. They have 1000, they have 300, they have 40, and they have 7 ones. Same thing can be done with a flip, a paper cup DIY thing, wherein units place and tens place. They can manipulate these cups, and they can actually create numbers and tell you, make their own numbers, and tell you as in, yes, this stands in the ones place and this is in the tens place. Now we've seen some of the pre-math skills. What we will now do is we will go on and understand what are the cognitive skills and thinking skills that are equally important, which you should definitely help a child develop, because they indirectly help child learn math skills and other subjects also. So observation is the first skill that we'll be discussing. What's observation? It's equally important. Why? Because unless and until you're keen, you are into, making your observations, getting into details, you will, so basically, like they say, if you are keen, it leads to discovery, right? Curiosity leads to discovery. So make sure that your child is curious. Never try and kind of not answer their questions. Every child uses their own, they use all their senses to actually observe. Children are blessed with that ability, but sometimes one senses is better than the other sense. So you as teachers and parents, we should be able to gauge that, yes, this particular child has very good visual skills, maybe very good hearing skills, maybe the child is good with tactile. So once you've understood, give them more of that, so that the child gets to experience a lot of things. So how can you enhance their observation skills? By stories, by narratives, by rhymes. Talk to them. Picture talk is a very good technique, wherein you can help them notice everything that's there in the picture, understand the kind of thinking they have. If they are able to notice important things, do they filter the important things? It gives you an insight into how they think. Play games with them that needs a lot of observation, concentration. Like you can have a tray, put objects, put a cloth on it, maybe hide certain objects, see if they still retain in their memory if they've seen those objects and what's missing. Okay, you can also do dramatization, role play. Why? Because they're observing you, they're observing the others. They may want to kind of, you can see if they can enact and they can show what they've learned so far. It's a very good technique and a very important area. So make sure that you invest some amount of time, activities, strategies, games, anything that you're good at and anything that your child you think your child enjoys, use it as a strategy and help them build this particular cognitive skill. Estimation is another important cognitive skill. It is about making educated, guesses, but not random guesses. These guesses that they draw will be based on their existing knowledge and the conceptual and factual knowledge that they already have built so far, developed so far. This is an important skill because it saves a lot of time and energy. I'm sure we all use estimation in some form or the other. For a child, for example, like if you have to order a cake for a party of 50 people, maybe how much is the amount of cake that you need to order? Okay, the number of chocolates that you need to carry to school if it's your birthday. Okay, if you have homework or some assignment, how much time do you think, you'll estimate a time that yes, you will take this amount of time and finish it accordingly. Okay, so it definitely saves a lot of time and energy, especially when it comes to children with special needs. So some amount of estimation skill is something that they should learn, and we should help them develop that. We should always invest in teaching them the vocab to do with estimation, like about, approximately, more, less. So these terms, if they understand, they'll be able to understand story problems. They'll be able to understand a situation wherein they have to take a solution, come to a decision, make a solution. So understanding the words, the estimation words, helps them to find the right answer, the correct answer. Working memory is another cognitive or thinking skill. Now, this is like the workspace of the brain. I'll say for simplest activity that you can think of, even observation or counting, coloring, everything, for every activity that you do, you go back to your working memory, you ask working memory, you do some amount of calculation there, and based on the input and the calculation, you proceed and you do a task. When it comes to math, it allows us to hold on to manipulate pieces of information. While you're adding, while you're counting, you definitely keep some amount of information in your brain, in your working memory, and only then you move to the next step. And maybe while you're on the next step, you go back to your memory and you pick things from there, what you've put, to help you solve the problem. So what we will now, the idea of talking about working memory today is to help you all understand that when you're teaching math, make sure that you give them a lot of memory aid. Okay, what's in memory aid? It's a verbal or a visual tool that they can use to help them remember a fact or a process. See, math has a lot of process, right? So if they are aware, they have some handy tools, or if they have some aids in their mind, they can actually remember the fact or do the process. Let's understand how. For example, now this is just a worksheet which will help you with your picture memory, as in, you'll see all this and maybe then you will cover or try and recollect the number of objects or the objects that you've seen there. Okay. And this particular picture here talks about the aids, the memory aid. Now, how can these be your memory aid? Let's see them. To-do list, maybe it definitely acts as an aid. When we don't remember or recollect things, we can put it in a to-do list. Making beautiful connections. How can an example to do with math is when you're teaching them multiplication. So what you can do is you can beautifully go back to addition, help children remember what addition was, and then introduce multiplication by telling, and multiplication is nothing but repeated addition. So see here, you've made a beautiful connection between the addition that they already know and now introducing a new topic as multiplication. Chunk the information. Nobody can remember everything in one go. So maybe you can give them things in bits and pieces, the processes in bits and pieces, so that they learn it bit by bit. There are a lot of mnemonics and acronyms that are readily available. In fact, there's no end to it. You can make your own mnemonics. Something that I remember is that, does McDonald's serve cheeseburger raw? So now this is something, a mnemonic that helps you remember that while you're doing long division, you first divide, then you multiply, then you subtract, then you check and then you borrow or bring down, and then maybe you see if there's a remainder or that's the result. Too much to remember, right? So these steps, if they are handy in form of a mnemonics, it becomes very easy for a child. The child can just write on the mnemonic somewhere and then maybe follow the procedure. It's like a hint, a aid that we've given them, that follow and you'll get the answer. Acronyms, there are a lot of acronyms that the children need to remember. They can even make their own ones. HCF, LCM, and many more. You can use a lot of games and puzzles, okay, to help them develop their memory skills. Practice mental math. Now, why practice mental math? Sometimes a brain break is important, especially for children with special needs or toddlers when they're doing math. For example, if they remember the fact that any number plus 0 is the same number. So if they remember this fact and it's more there in their memory, what happens is they don't have to actually invest time in counting, every time 5 and then add 0 and then, okay, there's nothing. And, it saves a lot of time and effort. So it gives the brain a break. There are a lot of facts that we'll see in maybe the other topics that we'll do in future, as in how can mental break and facts help children while doing math. There are a lot of exercises. I'm sure you guys must be aware of Brain Gym. So Brain Gym uses a lot of exercises to help build memory, help retain things, okay, and develop other skills. Visualize, again, a beautiful thing wherein, for example, we have a number line, we have a tens frame. These are nothing but visual aids that we give the child to help them to remember things. It goes as an aid for the memory. And songs, like we saw, how to make number 9, number 8. And while you're teaching them numbers, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. So there are a lot of rhymes that help you recollect numbers, learn numbers. So see how memory can be helpful. And if you work on the memory, you can definitely use it as a strong foundation to teach math skills. Perceiving patterns. Now, pattern is something that follows a rule by repeating, right? Of an attribute. So is a feature that you use to describe or compare things. So you can have anchor charts placed in the class. Along with that, you should help a child make their own pattern. Because see, if a child is able to understand what goes into pattern making, how are patterns made, this contributes to development of mathematical thinking. They understand the pattern and later they are able to apply these patterns while they're learning math. They should know, okay, if this has repeated, maybe after this will repeat, okay? So basically understanding. And the patterns can be made using shapes, colors, size, number, any attribute. Okay, so give them this freedom, give them this task of making their own patterns, because when they make their own patterns and get into discussion, as in why did you make this pattern, so you'll understand that, oh, the child has used this particular attribute. For example, all things are in round shape, circle, that's why the child has put them in one pattern, or like that. So discuss the pattern that a child has made. This will help them understand, and you can make your patterns and ask them to guess what was the attribute that you use. So this opens up their critical thinking and mathematical thinking. You can also begin with activities right in the nature. You have leaves, you have, while you're going to the park, you can also ask them to make pattern out of toys that they have, like big, small, you can see here. Here, the pattern is made out of colors, maybe all together, yellow together, purple together, in a circle. Again, a pattern, 2 attributes that being taken care of. Of course, we have a lot of worksheets that ask them to color and then guess maybe on a later state what comes after this particular shape. So matching, like we see, is an important skill. Okay, now there's a little bit of hierarchy that if you remember and you use, maybe the child will find it easy. So matching pairs and understanding why they go together will help them enhance their cognitive abilities. Here, maybe it's to do with objects, but later it can be generalized, and then you can use the skill while you're teaching numbers, that why these numbers are in pairs and so on. For a child to understand matching, they need to grasp the concept of same and different. So don't directly kind of, first introduce them to the topic of same. what is same, what is different, go to their level and ask them, help them understand what you think is, similar to something that you have in your hand. Ask them to go and get similar objects. Maybe you can tell them that I have something here and you have to get something which is very different from what I have. Who's different from whom. So they again look into different attributes. They understand that, okay, these objects are same because of this particular feature, or, and different because of this particular feature. When it comes to matching, matching helps them learn some of the major math skills later. For example, classifying, okay, finding common relationship, grouping, which is sorting, and ordering, which is arranging the numbers in some order. So definitely matching is important, and it goes as a base for later complex math skills. Children learn to pay attention to details, similarities, and differences by matching. So see, while they're looking to match, they are paying attention to the details, right? They're looking into the similarities, they're looking into the differences. Now, if you see the image here, this is something which is so difficult. Draw a line to match pictures with same feature. So this definitely will be used on a later stage, but here the child needs to understand, maybe the camera and the phone both are to do with picture, they click pictures, maybe the tree and the the plant here, they are similar because they are plants, and later it grows into a tree. The ball, the circle, here they're talking about the shape, maybe it's round. Here the cat family and the bike and this both has wheels, and maybe aeroplane and the rocket both fly. So see, there are different attributes and features which a child needs to pay attention to, and then is when they're able to match. Okay, so the hierarchy that I was talking about. So maybe what we can do is first begin with 3D objects, like match 3D to 3D. Okay, so you can see there's a basket of socks here. You can ask the child to match it with the same socks. You can do with any object that you think is handy in the classroom, in the house, and you can tell them to match. It is something that they enjoy doing as toddlers, and give them a different experience, give them, do this activity in number of ways that you can. Once you think the child has mastered 3D to 3D, move on to 3D to 2D, wherein you have a shape like this maybe, and they 3D shape, and they're matching it to the similar 2D shape. A lot of puzzles, can be used. You can have such activities wherein you do 3D to 2D, and then move on to 2D to 2D, wherein picture to picture, same picture as in apple to apple, oranges to oranges, they have to match on the worksheet. Maybe pictures, it can be to do with their own pictures, pictures when they were young. You can use those pictures, pictures of family members, pictures from the album, so make it interesting. And last, once you think they've mastered all these stages, move on to the last one, which is matching similar, the one that we saw previously. So something which is similar because of one particular feature, they should be able to reach that stage and match. Oh, problem solving. Again, an important activity, and there's no end to creativity when it comes to problem solving. So children learn to solve problem, and that's how they develop their mind, the cognitive skill, which later helps them with math skill and other education areas. So they learn to solve problem in two ways, either incidentally or through guided opportunity. So now, human nature, by we as humans by nature believe in solving problems. So our children, they love solving problems. They find their way out. For example, if you give them a puzzle, even if it's for the first time, you'll see that they are engrossed and they will try and solve it, use it the way they like. They may not know the rules of the games, but definitely try and use it, as it fits to their understanding. So what we as parents and educators here again should do is help them, give them more opportunities. Okay, so discuss what they did. Maybe while they're playing, you can ask them to explain what was the rule of the game, what do they want to play, what do they want to eat, or, so talking, playing puzzles, doing riddles with them, picture talk again, asking questions, asking them to teach you something. These are beautiful ways wherein you can develop the problem solving skills in children. And it once the child develops this, the child will be able to be an independent learner. They will by themselves try and want to attack a problem and solve it. They have that zeal in them. Okay, so as we discussed, there are a lot of riddles, brain teasers, I spy games, the tic-tac-toe. and make your own games, and just tap upon this area, because the more you give the exercise to their little minds, the more the brain develops and more they are better at solving problems. Spatial orientation is one important skill, cognitive skill, I'll say, for anyone, people any age. And trust me, poor spatial skills is just not seen in children. It can also be seen later in adult uh, around. You'll see what are spatial skills. Let's understand that. Now, this is one's awareness to do with themselves, to do awareness about space that they are in. It's to do with shape, size, direction, movement, and everything. So even for simple activity wherein they have to walk from one place to the other, they need spatial awareness while they are trying to express, as in something has fell somewhere, something is stuck somewhere, maybe something is inside. So they need these words. So the words like inside, outside, around, over, under, together, apart, below, up, down are the terms that helps them with space. These are words, concepts. If they understand, they'll be able to express better, and they'll be able to actually perceive things in a better way. For example, if you make an obstacle race, or use a room, make an obstacle using cardboards, bed sheets, bedspreads, pillows, cushions, keep them and help them move around. So once they go under the table or they are inside a box and they see things outside, it gives them a different vision, a different perception altogether. Help them, experience that. When you take them to playground, they swing, they slide, and they use the other instruments. They totally understand, the space, the size, the height, the position, the movement, the direction. So make it very, it's a must for all children. You have to make sure that they have an enriched experience of spatial skills. Spatial relations in math, if you see, are needed for completing, like I said, geometry, for graphs, for understanding problems, for word story problems, a lot of things to do with direction. You have to know these concepts. Now here, even for a simple activity like this, you'll see a child should be able to perceive that, yes, this watermelon is round, maybe the box is square, maybe the roti, the chapati, or the bread here is square in shape. So they should be able to visualize the shapes in all forms and various forms that they see around. There are a lot of activities on a daily basis as a part of your routine. I'm sure you must be already doing it, but we'll just try and list some of them, which will help to develop a child's spatial orientation. So like I said, you can use construction, you can use obstacles. You can give them an experience, take them to playground. Along with that, you can use games that need movement, like hopscotch, tracking, like you see here, trying to take the card through the track that's made there. You can have board games wherein you need to manipulate the tokens, the counters. Maybe you can have restricted movement games, like you have the hula hoop, when you have to kind of go through, move your body in some fashion to make the hoop go round. There are hopscotch, wherein you cannot cross the line, jump beyond, be in the box. So something like that. You can do origami, you can do art and craft activities wherein they have to fold paper, understand the shape, close it, open it. You can do copying images when they have to exactly, because while they're copying, they have to retain the size, maybe retain the shape, retain the form. So see, there are multiple activities that we as parents and educators can use to make sure that the child has enriched experience and develops spatial orientation skills in a beautiful way. There are also activities, worksheets like this, and they are readily available. This one area is so well researched upon. You'll get a lot of material which is handy. You can use them. So here the child has to visualize what should be the other part of this particular vehicle, maybe what should be the start, the beginning of this particular vehicle, put them together, and so on. Never jump to worksheets. Always start with concrete. I'll repeat, move on to pictures, maybe, and then finally to worksheet. Sorting and classifying. Here again is an important cognitive skill, thinking skill. Sorting involves grouping items together, right? We have to make sure that they are well versed with this particular thing, sorting by color, shape, size. Sorting requires analyzing data. So you helping them think, find relationship among objects. So it's not always color, it's sometimes shape, sometimes utility, sometimes features, because of which we are trying to classify, sort. Classifying means applying a characteristics to a group, like all these are circles, all these are big, and it helps children to develop a range of thinking skills and build the foundation later for problem solving. Before we move to comparisons by size, weight, and length, and etc., whenever you begin with measurement, always remember to begin with direct objects. Okay, so start with objects. For example, pencil to pencil. So measure two pencils together, compare two pencils together. So this is the direct comparison that we teach them. Okay, then from there, maybe we should move on to non-standard unit of measurement, as in given a pencil, how many cubes size is the pencil, how many maybe pen size is the pencil, or how many blocks put together makes the size of the pencil. So this is a non-standard unit of measurement. And from there, finally, we move to the standard unit of measurement. So introducing the concept in the order that we discussed will help them develop these skills easily. So comparing by size, here size is the magnitude of an object. The child understands how big or small this object is compared, or how big or small they are compared to the similar objects or people around, right? So you can again begin this activity with simple things like leaves, collect them, put them as per size order, maybe children in the class. And then finally, if you've moved from objects to from concrete objects, move on to pictures, and then to math problems, wherein they can actually see and compare objects by size. Now, comparing here by length, if you see, is something that the children actually enjoy. Most of the time, you'll see they're comparing their height. Maybe they're comparing the length of their hair, maybe the block that they've made. You know, they most of the time compare whose block is big, who's made a taller one, you know, and sometimes they get a new scale or a pencil and they see, okay, mine is, much longer than yours. So this is something which comes naturally to them. All we have to do it, just reinforce the vocab, the right vocab, teach them, long, short, tall, small. So whatever is the appropriate vocab according to the activity that you're teaching. So stick to that. Teach them the vocab, reinforce. They should understand that, yes, you mean, when you say the word long, you mean this. And when you say the word short, you mean this. Okay. Help them understand that length is usually sidewards, whereas height is upwards. So objects like bread, sandwiches, maybe road, the size of the shoe, these are all measured in length. Whereas when you're doing height, it's, for example, the door, the tree, how tall you are, and etc. So the height of a building. So once you've done this, maybe showing them in the nature, maybe taking them out, maybe as concrete objects, move on to worksheets. Practice is a must. So definitely worksheets are important, but once you've finished making sure that, yes, they've understood the concept. Comparing by weight, again, once you've helped them understand that weight is something because of which the object, when you hold something in hand, the more the weight the object goes down, right? Help them compare objects, understand what the concept of weight is like. Maybe you can make a DIY weighing scale like this, wherein you can help them see objects that they use in every day-to-day life, how heavy or light a particular object is compared to the other object that they may be using. Once they've done this handy with things in the classroom, maybe in the house, maybe the objects like crayons and things, the coins, the pebbles, blocks, they get a fair idea of, yes, this is heavy and this is light. Teach them the vocab, and then move on to pictures, of course, wherein they must have experienced these, and now they are able to guess that, yes, this particular object should be heavier compared to the other object that you're showing them. So with this, we come to the last important, thing, as in the teaching children math. While you're teaching math, how important is teaching them language? Okay, so let's begin. Let's see at this picture. Have a look. The third here, okay, in front of the class, and 2/3 full don't mean the same, right? I'll give another example. Left, okay? So there are only two left on the left-hand side. So this left is different from the left here. There were even number of plates kept on the even surface. So this even means different from that even. See how tricky it gets. Okay, I understand the children are getting exposed to all this, at the tender age wherein they just begin to learn. Okay, so what we must do is consciously teach them math language. Math has a language of its own. Sometimes it uses symbols and sometimes written words. It's a myth that math is only to do with numbers. I'm sure a lot of educators here are spending good amount of time in class helping children understand the math language. Unless and until they are aware of the language, they never use the word seriously. They never understand the depth of the word used. They maybe misinterpret, maybe they guess, and that's how they end up with wrong process or wrong steps, or they use the wrong symbol, So if math language isn't explicitly taught, the child tends to disregard math words and only pay attention to the numbers. And we all know, to understand math word problems or maybe later higher level math, we need to genuinely read not just once, twice, to understand, filter, and then finally get the chunk of data that's needed, and then plan our steps and then solve the problem. So I'm sure all of you will agree here that teaching math language is equally important when it comes to teaching preschoolers numbers. What can be the strategies that we can use to teach math here? We can start with something that the child already knows. For example, if they know round, you can teach them round as in circle. If they know corners, you can teach them corner as in vertex. So if they know these, the area can be taught as, the space inside an enclosed shape or figure. So like that, whatever they know, based on that, you can introduce the new vocab and help them, bridge, as in learn the new vocab now. Explicitly teach math words and give multiple exposure when it comes to math words. You can also make a math word wall, wherein in a classroom, you can put all important words to do with the topic that you're teaching right now. For example, if it's comparing, for measuring, if it's size, you can put shorts, tall, whatever words they need to know to do with that particular topic in the class on the math word wall that you've made. You can also use games like Pictionary, graphic organizers to help them learn the math words. In fact, individual math vocab book can also be made, wherein you can just make it handy, give them an aid as in word for the day, a child that needs to remember and use the word. Now that we've seen all important math preschool areas and we've discussed the cognitive and thinking areas, let's wind up with the most important takeaway from this particular webinar. What we've seen today is to incorporate math in day-to-day life, because it doesn't come inside a classroom. Math is something which is there everywhere. So it has to be a day-to-day thing. When planning math activities, it is important to create a wide range of experience. Okay, math cannot be taught. You have to do math. So make it interesting, use as many material as you can. Enriching experience is what will make math interesting. Include activities, games, and learning experiences that create more interest in children. And inculcate positive math mentality. If you scare of math and if you think it's a task, it's burden, you definitely some way or the other will reflect this to your child, will pass it on to your child. So never show them that math is a burden, math is a task. Always put math in small pieces, use techniques and show them that, yes, it's super fun if learned the right way and if done the activities nicely. So with this, we come to the end of the webinar.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Smita. Although we have come to an end of today, your presentation, there's still the Q&A session left to continue with the webinar. Thank you so much for very practical tips that have been shared by you, the ones that are very easily, very easy to implement with the things available at home or at classroom. I'm very sure that all the participants must have learned a lot from your valuable session. Before I proceed further and ask the questions that have been submitted by a lot of participants to us in advance. I would like to remind our dear participants that if you liked today's session and would like to revisit the recording or the slide deck or some of the resources associated to this event, you can save the link of the event takeaways page being shared in the chat box right now. This page will give you access to the recording of today's session in 2 to 3 working days. Apart from that, you can also access the associated resources, the slide deck, of course. So do check it out and share it with other people who can benefit from it. Apart from that, like we have always been saying, if you wish to expand the ability community further, you could help us by sharing the certificate programs or by sharing resources or by writing to us at support@ability.com to become an inclusion champion and serve your local community better. We have 2 upcoming events from Ability, one on 21st April by Dr. Marie Grace Gomez on the topic how you can help parents understand why children face academic difficulties. The second one will be on 28th April, again by Mrs. Smita Tripathi, where we'll be continuing the maths workshops on the topic developing arithmetic skills in children with special needs. These 2 events will be conducted at 12:30 p.m. Nigeria time, 4:30 p.m. India time, and 7 p.m. Singapore and Philippines time. The links for these events are being shared in the chat box right now. If you haven't yet registered, please do visit and register. Also share it with friends and colleagues who can benefit from the learnings of these events. And now moving on to the questions for today. The first one that we have received, Mrs. Smita, is from Hema. She's asking that as parents or even as educators, how can you differentiate between maths phobia and maths difficulty? How can you differentiate what is it that the child is dealing with?
This is a very good question. Thanks for bringing this up. Now, when it comes to math phobia and you said math difficulty, definitely both of them towards the end, I'll say, show similar challenges. For example, children may find math difficult. They may not want to do math and they may score low, right? But now that you know that these are 2 different things already, okay? So one is math anxiety and the other thing is math difficulty. Let me give you an example. So you and me both know driving, okay? You are unable to drive maybe because you have a flat tire, maybe your brake isn't working, maybe your steering is too stiff, okay? Whereas
Right.
I am unable to drive because I have this phobia or, I foresee that if I drive, there'll be an accident. I'll hit someone. Maybe my car will conk off in between. Maybe I'll get stuck in traffic. Maybe I'll not get a parking. So see, what happens here is both of us know driving, okay? But you genuinely have difficulties. The car isn't in the right shape to perform. Whereas here, I can drive, but I have this phobia in me because of which I'm unable to drive. Coming back to the topic, what we can do to identify or to differentiate between the two is we should go back to the non-exam time maybe. For example, see if how a child is able to solve homework. If given an homework or an assignment, if the child is able to do it themselves, somewhere you know that yes, maybe it's the exam time or the child is not able to perform, but otherwise the child is really doing well. Okay. Or maybe what you can do is you can also see how easily a child picks up a topic. For example, if you're teaching a concept, a child with math difficulty will genuinely take time or may find it difficult to get the concept. Whereas a child with phobia, just the math phobia, may get the topic just like that, will be able to participate, will be able to solve problems. But when it comes to exam or when it comes to solving something, taking a test, the child may not be able to perform, not do the thing right in spite of knowing because of the anxiety. So you can, these days, how can you help children with math phobia? Maybe you can have an anxiety tracker. You can have a sheet wherein you can note down when is the child is not performing well, when are the times when the child is able to get the concepts, able to perform. So this will help you differentiate. Along with that, maybe you can do a lot of, solve a lot of math questions more, like a sample test or maybe introduce them to math time and again so that they get rid of the phobia. So basically sensitize them slowly and slowly to whatever is their fear. So that will help them get over math phobia. So in a way, yes, these are the techniques how you'll differentiate math difficulties with math phobia. Hope I answered your question.
Wonderful, wonderful, Smita ma'am. Definitely, I think so. There are ways that these things could be differentiated and then later be addressed. The next one that I have is from Isa. Isa is asking us, how do we know that children are ready to learn math? Are there any prerequisite skills that they should know or master, or in particular display before we could go about and start teaching them math?
Okay, so as human beings, like we know that children, even 1 year old, start showing us that they can relate with math. For example, when it comes to you give them a particular food every day, and one day you change, they immediately understand that this is different from what they usually have. They may not eat it that easily. Another example that I want to give you here is that when it comes to the toys, okay, they're so familiar with their toys that they don't want to, the pattern maybe of the toy, that they don't want to experiment with something else. Sometimes they understand the concept of big and small. You buying them a small teddy and they say, no, I don't want this. I want a bigger one. So here they give you an insight that, yes, I am aware of what big looks like and what small is. Right. Sometimes you want to buy them chocolates, okay, and they are just not happy with this much, okay, little. For them, they want more. So here they give you a clue that, yes, I understand that more looks more, I want more number of chocolates and this is really less. So children have their own ways of, and like, they have this inbuilt math ability in them. All we have to do is that help them, bring them out, do more of math talk with them, um, expose them to math numbers in daily life, like we discussed, so that it becomes easy when we actually start with the formal math training. Along with that, like you said, what can be, like you asked, what can be the prerequisites? Yes, all the pre-math skills that we discussed today, right from number sense, counting numbers, recognizing numbers, putting them in the order, understanding big and small, understanding odd and even, skip counting. So these are all pre-math skills that slowly and steadily we teach children. We expose them to these topics so that when we begin with formal maths in grade 1, 2, 1 and so on, they should be able to use this base and learn the topics further.
Right. Very well. And you have also elaborated on some of these pre-math skills in the slide deck. If users would like to visit, they could rewatch the recording for understanding some of these pre-math skills better. Thanks, Smita ma'am. The next one that we have is from Mithavi Balasubramaniam. She's asking that repetition in teaching, is it good for children with special needs, or it has a risk of making them feel bored, especially while teaching math in particular?
Sure. Again, so I mean, the participants really are, asking questions from the experience that they have. This comes only with experience. So now to answer this particular question, yes, repetition. Okay. So science has proved, maybe researchers have been done that repetition definitely leads to learning. Repetition helps you master a topic. It helps you to, bridge the doubts, clarify the doubts or the concepts. So the more you repeat, maybe the better you learn. Having said that, you will also see that repetition is one of the important learning technique that children use. For example, you've seen a preschooler, they tend to repeat a particular rhyme a number of times. Sometimes they watch one particular show, even if they've seen it, 10, 20 times, they repeat it. When it comes to book, you will see them that they repeat one particular book or the book that they've read number of times. We as adults may feel that why is the child wasting time in, reading or watching or, singing the same thing? But we fail to understand here is that repeating is a technique that they use to learn. So maybe when they're repeating, they're learning it better. Coming to children with special needs, repetition is definitely a technique. We have to repeat what we've taught, only teach a new topic then, and even after you finish teaching, you have to go back and repeat. So repeating is something that we cannot skip as educators, as parents. it goes a long way. It definitely helps them. Coming to the boring part, what I'll say is that we can use concepts. We have to repeat concepts. We can refresh our techniques. For example, if it's teaching numbers and we're doing reverse teaching counting, and we've taught them 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, one fell down and bumped his head, and then 4 little monkeys jumping, and then three. So next time when you're doing this, maybe you can change the monkeys into puppies, maybe kittens. So make it a bit interesting. They know something new has been added. They are keen, they are anxious, and then they like, oh, it's fun. Maybe you've added something new, and they would repeat it with you. So if you think the child is getting bored, refresh your technique, but repeat concepts, because unless and until we've repeated concepts, we won't be able to actually help them retain.
Wonderful. So repetition may be necessary on the concept level, but not so much on the technique level if you want to get rid of the boredom. That's something wonderful that the educators and teachers must have learned from you today. The next one that we have is from Francis. Although we have talked at length about the different teaching strategies to improve numeracy skills, Francis is requesting us to, share few best teaching strategies. And then again, if you could elaborate on some of the ways to improve the retention abilities after teaching a particular concept of math.
Sure. So we'll first answer, I'll first answer the first part of the question, which talks about what strategies can we use to help children improve the numeracy skills, right? So all these strategies that we use today are, techniques that can be used as per the need of the child. You are the best judge to decide what strategy will suit depending on the strength of your child. Any strategy that you use, tweak it, like I said, to the need of the child as per your need. The only thing that you need to remember are the core points, as in it definitely has to help the child bridge the gap. It needs to, make sure that you've understood what the problem area is, and based on that, you're using the strategy. So all the strategies that we use today, okay, can start with concrete, any topic that you're doing, any number skill that you're teaching, move on to pictures, and then move on to symbols. Don't make it abstract for the child. Only when these strategies are used with manipulatives, okay, teaching aids, is when it will benefit the children. So my only goal here to tell you all is that whoever needs this strategy, any child, please use it and make sure that you use it with good amount of teaching aids and manipulatives, so that it becomes easy for the child. Coming to how to help children improve retaining. Okay, for retaining, yes, anchor charts, okay, like we all use in the classroom. You can have anchor charts to do with whatever topic you're doing. You can build a routine. Math routines are very important. So before you begin your class, maybe you can do counting. Maybe you can do skip counting with one set of children. You can do odd numbers with one set of children. So when you have these math routines in your class, they will be able to retain. Along with routines, what you can also do is, like I said, while doing the memory, have teaching aids, give them handy teaching aids. When you're doing greater than, less than, give them those, alligator mouths open. They can use that. So once they're using it, you can make an even, Stephen at in the class, as a bookmark, give it to them. So when they're using it, seeing it more often, it becomes as a aid to remember things that they've learned. Songs go a long way. Let them use songs and teaching aids, like I said.
Great. Those are some of the wonderful strategies that you did talk about. Anything to the next part of the question in terms of retention?
Yeah, retention, like I said, we can use mnemonics, we can use songs, we can use anchor charts, we can use, um, word walls in the class.
Sure.
So these can go as techniques to retain.
Definitely. Okay. So the next one that we have, a lot of people who are watching us live via Zoom, Vinod, Arsa, and a couple of more are asking us that tables are a big deal. And if you have a strategy to make students learn tables easily, because they often fumble while multiplying more than one digit numbers. So how can students learn tables better?
So small steps, one at a time. So today we've learned just the number PreMatch Skills. We have a webinar on 28th, which will talk about the addition and subtraction. And then we'll have another webinar wherein we'll discuss the multiplication and division. So I will definitely want to answer this, but math, especially when it comes to timetables, there are many things that we need to learn before we teach the children the right technique, the right time, the right method. So maybe we'll touch upon this topic in detail when we're doing the other webinar. Hope that's okay.
Sure. So do register for the upcoming webinars if you want to learn better about these topics and how you can help the children learn timetables better. If you haven't already registered, now is the time to do it. The next one that we have is from Ghazla. You did discuss about CPA in your presentation. So Ghazla is asking us if you could guide how can CPA be used for secondary level, especially for the purpose of surface areas.
See, by then, I am assuming, okay, the child must have, understood the base level math. Children understand what numbers mean, what quantity means, what big numbers are, how much goes into making the big number. For surface area, there are a lot of math, especially, geometry and other topics that can be done with the help of videos, if not concrete objects. So depending on what size you're trying to deal with. So maybe you can use that as aid wherein they see if they're not actually doing it, because that makes it interesting. That explains and simplifies the concept. And then maybe move on to the sums, the problems, the calculation, the real part of it.
Definitely. So that could be used if you want to help them with the calculation part of it. And the next question is from Abudullahi, who's a teacher. Abdullah is asking us, as a maths teacher, if there is a way to identify slow and fast learners in a classroom setting and ways to help them better.
Definitely. So here, what we need to focus on, you will have all kinds of children in the classroom. We as educators should never be, in a hurry to judge or to kind of, conclude that, yes, this particular child is going to go slow in math and this particular child is going to go fast. Some children pick some topics really quick and some take time with some amount of topic. So what we need to do is from day one, keep our observations in place. Okay, so when it comes to a particular topic, make sure that you've noticed that, yes, these are the set of children who took time, maybe who needed more stimulation compared to the other children in the class. So once you've made a note of that, while you move on to the next topic, maybe, by the time you're there with them and you've understood, say a month, two, you will get a quick idea of that, yes, that this difficulty is reflected in all the topic, irrespective of whatever you're teaching in the class. So that gives a hint that, yes, the child may have genuine math difficulty. And we are then should never waste any amount of time. We should, in a way, give them stimulation as much as we can, because again, formally, taking assessment at that age is not recommended. We would want them to first, we'll give them stimulation, see if it works. Sometimes just that helps and it bridges the gap and the child is able to learn all the math skills. If not, then yes, remember the red flags that we discussed. See if the child fits into, as in if the child is showing too many red flags, and the time period also. Sometimes even for reversals, like, if a child is writing numbers, they as a pattern do it, but outgrow it in a month or two. Once they start practicing, they outgrow. But if a child still hasn't outgrown, then the time is an important factor. And then comes all the red flags, the magnitude, as in how many red flags is the child showing. With that, like I said, it should be reflected in all math areas that you're doing with the child. If yes, then you will be able to identify, yes, this particular child needs intervention strategies compared to the other children in the class.
So red flags could be a way to identify which children need more help in a classroom setting, and along with so many other things that Mrs. Smita just pointed out. Since we are running short of time, we'll take two last questions for today's session. The last second one is from Mitali, who's watching us live on Zoom. Mitali is asking us, how is spatial orientation needed or necessary for math skills?
Um, while doing spatial orientation, we definitely discuss strategies, but we also discuss the need of spatial orientation for math skills. Let's revise that because this is really important. Spatial skills are needed for direction, for movement, for understanding you in the space that you're in, as in you sitting on a chair, you something is lying under the table. When it comes to math, understanding geometry, understanding the place value. So also graphs, understanding the direction left from right. Math, spatial orientation is applied in all the topics here. So once the child gets hang of the vocab to do with spatial orientation, they understand, they've experienced, the spatial thing from different perspective, they are able to better understand math concepts. See, for a child who's actually done, obstacle race, who's in the playground playing, swinging, sliding, they understand what the height, the movement is like. How does it feel to, from high? How does it feel from low? This gives them a total a perspective, definitely, which becomes the base when it comes to understanding concepts in math.
Sure. So that was a quick revision for the part that is already covered. If you would like to visit in much more detail, you can always watch the on-demand recording of the session that is available. The on-demand recording will be available in 2 to 3 working days from now on. So moving on to the last question for today, which is from Rose. Rose is asking us how to motivate a child who refuses to learn math. A very typical question from parents and educators alike. So if you'd like to throw some light on that.
Sure, this is important because I think even you and me will not want to do thing that we are not motivated in doing. Something, if you may not want to do something if you don't know how to do it. Maybe because you're criticized when you're doing it, or you've had a bad experience with it. So for a child who refuses to do math, there can be different reasons. Please try and understand what's the real reason behind it. Once you know the reason, only then can you motivate, inspire a child. Having said that, children love play. So not that we have to keep playing, but we have to be playful. So playful is an attitude, an approach, right? So be playful with your activities, your lesson plans, your worksheets, your tricks and techniques, your teaching methods. So the child will connect. The child has no reason not to play, right? So they'll connect and they will definitely want to learn everything that you're teaching. With that, yes, play is a technique, yes, use a lot of teaching it and stop correcting them. Maybe point out less of mistakes and more of strength. Okay. So we should appreciate their efforts and not their ability. If they're not good at it, it's okay. But if they're putting efforts, we need to appreciate that. So that is something I'm sure we all educators are very good at. So keep that as your weapon, or I'll say that's your superpower. Use it and make sure that the children are motivated and want to learn math.
Definitely. Being playful can definitely help and increase the motivation level of the child to learn math. And once they are motivated, I think so nothing would be impossible, like Miss Smita very elaborately discussed in today's session, how the very easily available tools at home and the things available at home could be used to make them ready for learning math. Thank you so much, Mrs. Pita, for such an insightful session. The tools, strategies, and techniques that were shared and discussed by you are definitely very, very useful for all the attendees. The chat section is already filled with gratitude messages thanking you for a wonderful learning experience. So I would like to remind dear attendees, firstly, thanks a lot for your feedback. I would request you all to please also share your feedback and comments on the feedback link being shared in the chat box right now. Do not forget to register for the upcoming sessions of Ability, one on 21st April and the next one on 28th of April. The 21st of April will be a session how you can help parents, and the 28th of April would continue with the remedial maths strategies and techniques, which will again be conducted by Mrs. Smita. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Before I call the session an end, I would like to learn from you, Mrs. Smita. How was your experience conducting today's session?
As always, I love the energy that Team Ability has and the participants, the kind of questions and the kind of response that the participants come up with show that everybody genuinely here is interested in making a difference in the field of special education. So I so much wish that with such enthusiasm, each and every child who needs to be reached out is reached, and you guys are making a big difference there. I'm sure the participants are also, on the same path, and we'll end up helping a lot many children.
Definitely. The difference is being made by experts like you, and very obviously the enthusiastic community members who are more than ready to share the benefits and learnings with one another. That's what keeps the ability community growing and learning, and we hope that the learning continues. Thank you so much, everyone, for being an amazing audience. That brings us to the end of today's session. Till then, a goodbye from Team Ability, and we would see you next in our next workshop.